wasn't going to compromise you. I I'm smart, but anyway, yeah, we tried.
Wasn't able to do it.
Can you believe it? She'll tell him. That's funny, really. I don't know.
Are you saying we get together? Yeah, you know what?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I do want to just kind of clear here a little bit. Thanks.
And then whatever you did, we're trying to achieve this full screen. To do what you did on
Tommy White was great.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So the way I found out,
Right. So I think the usually do the setting.
Right.
I believe. We'll see.
Brian, can we start? Hi, everyone. I'd like to call the regular Wilmington City Council meeting April 21st, 2022 to order. May we have roll call, please?
Jonathan McKay.
Here.
Michael Snarr.
Here.
Bill Learman.
Present.
Bob Osborne.
Here.
Michael Albright.
Here.
Nick Evelyn.
Here.
Matt Perkey.
Here.
Thank you. Seeing everyone here, would you stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Under my agenda tonight, we have the agenda. What is your pleasure?
Move with the exceptions presented.
Second.
Motion second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is accepted as presented. You also have before you the meeting minutes of the April 7th, 2022 meeting. What is your pleasure?
Move they be accepted as presented.
Second.
Motion second to accept the meeting minutes of the April 7th meeting as presented. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes are accepted. I also have the announcement of a public hearing for May 19th, 2022 for a rezoning of 28.60 acres owned by Checkers Theaters, Inc., and located at 1057 North Lincoln Street from SN suburban neighborhood to TN traditional neighborhood. So we will have that public hearing May 19th. That's all I have. Mr. Mayor.
Just a few quick announcements. The weed and grass season is upon us, and we're going to be enforcing the rules that grass not be over 10 inches tall between April 15th, October 31st. Same thing on tree and brush trimming over your public sidewalks. There's supposed to be 8 foot of clearance, the width of the walks, and also the right-of-ways through the alleys. You have to keep all your stuff trimmed back. Earth Day is this Saturday, April 23rd, 8:30. All volunteers to meet at Sugar Tree Community Square, which is the vacant lot next to the escape. All supplies will be provided for a walking litter cleanup of the event. No need to pre-register, just contact Anna and code enforcement for more information. And then the same day, from 11 to 4 up at Zydus Park, they're going to have Earth Day Experience. There's going to be STEM activities, trolley rides, local art, cone ice, tree giveaway, and much more. That's sponsored by Timber Tech, Murphy Theater, Main Street, Wilmington, and Barry. Anybody idea who Barry is? Or is that a typo?
Makes sense. Very.
Yeah, I don't know. But we thank him, or her, for doing it. Right there. Let's see, the other thing, tire recycling. The difference on this one is still out of the county engineer's office where they have it, but you have to pre-register this time. And that's going to be the April 30th from 9 to 12. So if you've got old tires that you need to get rid of, now's the time to do it. We had another issue come up on downtown parking now that our safety improvements are happening out here on this block behind me. And we did eliminate several parking spots between South between Locust and Main. But you have to remember, this is an ODOT project, engineered by them, constructed by them, paid for by them with grants. But I did meet with a property owner and one of the business owners, and I listened to their concerns, and they were legitimate concerns. So today I met with the project engineer and our inspector, and we walked the area, we looked at the area, and we think we can squeeze in 3 more parking spots. Got to shuffle some lines around a little bit, but they're pretty, this is, again though, I emphasize this is with ODOT's approval because this is their project, but we think we can pull that off. And Nick, I want to thank you for passing that information on the citizens' concerns. That way I was to help get this problem rectified. So if any of you have a citizen call you and they got an issue, send them right to us. Sometimes we can do something about it, and sometimes we can't, but at least we'll tell them. Now one of the great things I get to do is swear in a new police officer. Logan, you want to come on up front? Do you have anybody you would like to have join us?
Yes, my family, my dad.
Come on up. Come right here.
I'll introduce my dad. Yeah, my entire.
We'll spin the wheel and then we'll pull the cars.
I'm joking. Confused for a second.
See, he's not old enough to watch Wheel of Fortune. Who do we have up here?
So this is my little sister Emma. That's my sister Carrie. That's my girlfriend Emma. That's my stepmom Charity and my dad Jamie.
Welcome. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Logan Schroeder,
I, Logan Schrager,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the ordinances of the City of Wilmington, Ohio,
the ordinances of the City of Wilmington, Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent on me
as a police officer
as a police officer
with the Police Department for the City of Wilmington,
with the Police Department of the City of Wilmington,
Ohio,
Ohio,
to the best of my ability and understanding.
to the best of my ability and understanding.
This I do as I shall answer unto God.
This I do as I shall answer unto God.
Welcome, Logan. I need you to sign right here, Logan. next?
You get to see you want first, what you think is.
What's your mom or dad is with us? Who you want?
It's up to you, what you. What you, mom, dad.
Chief, anybody?
No pressure.
Chief Cravens. My dad. Last
His final acts.
Dad, we need you to sign right here. Congratulations. That was very proud of him. Congratulations.
Chief. Chief.
Okay. This is about making the mayor look good, right?
My unofficial job. Okay. Okay.
I'll keep the newspaper man happy too.
Oh, do you need one?
And as I'm going back to my seat, I just have one more thing I have to mention. It seems like we're getting in a routine on this. Last council meeting with George Bush, and this one is Roger Spray. My goodness, what a great man he was for our community. And how he is going to be dearly, dearly missed. Okay, on a lighter note, Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alder Vance, do you have anything for us tonight?
Nothing tonight, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Scheidegger.
I definitely have one piece of legislation tonight, Mr. President. So, I would like to, well, I'd like to have to do the legislation first before we can.
Want to do the legislation?
If possible, please.
And what is that legislation about?
It is about what I'm holding in my hand right now, a badge and a firearm that we'd like to present to Chief Cravens.
So we have 3 readings on a resolution that we need to pass. Would someone like to move for the first reading?
So moved. Reluctantly.
We have a second.
Second.
Bob? All right, you get this. So we have a motion second for the first reading of Resolution 2215. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May we have the first reading, please?
Resolution R-2215 regarding a retiring officer's service weapon and badge, providing for a release of claims and honoring said officer with the presentation of the same and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend the rules. Oh, it's tough, I'm telling you. Motion to suspend the rules, give the resolution a second, third readings by title only. Second.
Have a motion second for suspension of the rules. Roll call, please.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Turkey.
Yes.
The motion carries. May we have second and third reading, please?
Resolution R-2215 regarding a retiring officer's service weapon and badge, providing for a release of claims and honoring said officer with the presentation of the same and declaring an emergency.
Motion for passage of the resolution. Second.
Motion second for passage. Roll call, please.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Turkey,
Yes.
McKay.
Yes. Thank you. Resolution 2215 passes. Mr. Scheidegger.
Chief, would you like to step forward, please? There was too short of a time ago that I had a police department that was in real trouble. And this man stepped forward with honor and integrity, cleaned it up. I will never forget you. And this is Chief Craven's service revolver and his badge. And it's reluctantly, that I get listed, I'm so glad that you're not going to wear a bulletproof vest.
I have to wear a helmet.
Well, you think the city could afford a little better case?
It's
wouldn't
just,
you?
it's pretty tight there, man.
But withstood the test of
Let's let
time.
him sign off his weapon, and then.
And then I'm trying to think, what on earth do you give a guy that's been so dedicated to our city, to me, to our citizens, as a blown away president? And I racked my brain. And what is one of the most precious things I have? Since you go in Florida. Hey, this ain't no joke, folks. Precious. Huh? Palm trees and motorcycles, what do you think? How's he look?
The best man, and don't miss.
Yeah, that's what.
Well, I know exactly how to ruin it.
You know, probably better you just sit down now.
Go right into an annual report of utility billing rates. Seriously, like,
Sorry.
oh my gosh. Yeah, so who wants to talk about utility billing rates now? I believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilperson Perky, this is something that was your idea a few years ago that you brought to council, and it's a really good idea that we're gonna make ourselves report, our recommendations as far as how we feel as a city on our rates and make those recommendations to council. And we do that every April of every year. And for those of you that are new to this, what happens is we will present this report tonight. We will make copies available, we'll email it to you, and then council then will decide whether or not they want to take these recommendations and information to their respective committees. This year, so it would work if I turn the air, if I push the arrow there. That arrow? I didn't do anything. Oh, boy. Same thing that's happened this is like keeps happening. It worked 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And if you can't get it to work, we'll have to come back to it. It worked just a second ago. But this year, what you will find, because council and administration have been so proactive, this year there are no recommendations. There are not going to be any recommendations to increase rates across the board this year. But there's going to be a lot of, but be prepared moving forward. So thank you. You always do that for me. Thank you. So here's the official letter that I have. And sanitation, no adjustment rate plan is recommended. Stormwater, no adjustment fee is recommended. Wastewater, no adjustment and rate plan is recommended. Water, no adjustment and rate plan is recommended. And again, I'm going to repeat myself, but that is because of how proactive we have been with the rate structure that we've instituted in the city. So, go to the next one, please.
Okay, how do you do that?
How do we do that? So sanitation, does that not have the budget in it? So it's not have your spreadsheet in it,
Well, sorry.
which I want the spreadsheet in there.
Oh my gosh.
Go to the end of it, because I
Just,
no, because right tomorrow. The rest is fine. Sanitation, and I'll bring this up and more, it was part of the heads up. The expansion, we're on the horizon of the expansion for phase 8. Right now, we're anticipating that that expansion will be $1.2 million. And that's what we had budgeted for with our rate plan. I will tell you that we've had a 5% incremental increase since 2000, it was 5 years, and I just know that it falls off at the end of 23, it'll fall off. So obviously no recommendation for rate increase this year. It goes off next year, and Auditor Vance can jump in whenever. We will have to really think hard this time next year on what type of rate structure we need with that expansion. $1.2 million is projected today. I will tell you that I've been talking to a lot of people, and there was just an expansion up in Columbus, and the engineer's estimate was $2 million. And unfortunately, those bids came in around 3.2. So it is out of control right now. So it is 1.2 today. The rate structure plan is set for that. And with that said, I don't know if you wanted to talk about cash on hand with the sanitation department. I know your slide's not up there, but did you want to talk about cash on hand and what we are comfortable with right now today?
we touched on it just a little bit last time when we were talking about the note issue, that we passed the legislation with the note issue. And when you do receive those, there will be a spreadsheet with that shows what has happened for the last 2 or 3 years, and then the current year. And then next year, if we use cash and make a payment on that note that we still have outstanding, it's using existing carryover. And then it shows the next year, we still have the note payment, but we start to build that carryover up a little bit more and a little bit more. As we said before, the bailout is if we get some snafu with pricing and that we can do some lesser payment on the note, push it out to the next year once we get through the cash flow year. But perhaps we'll have another opportunity to look at that spreadsheet when we can talk about it interactively at that time. But that's the basic. It appears today, and as Councilman Heedland reminded me in conversation earlier, we present these to you, and it's like driving your new car off of the lot. It depreciated the minute you drove it off, so the minute I present it to you, tomorrow it changes and can change and probably will change. So it's always a living, breathing animal that we always want to remember that when we discuss these things. But that was our discussion, as I hope everyone recalls, from our last council.
Rick had a good one just as we were walking in here. He said, you know, when you're doing these forecasts and rate analysis, you are kind of looking into a crystal ball. And in the times that we live in now, it's even cloudier than usual, looking into that crystal ball with, you know, inflation and everything that's going on with supply and demand. So no rate increases recommended this year for sanitation, but with that expansion, be prepared for next year to have that conversation. I'll turn it over.
If you don't
Yes,
mind me
sir.
interrupting for a
Sorry.
second, I feel like, and we probably talked about this, but wasn't 7 supposed to be an 8-year plan?
No.
Phase 7?
Phase 7 was a larger cell. It was like 2.4 million. They originally said it would be between 4 to 5 years.
We're
now-
clearly on the,
And I will tell you, we are projecting about a year ahead of schedule on that. I was concerned, I'm sure I share your concern. I was like, why are we a year ahead of schedule?
why are we ahead on it?
Do
Yeah.
we have compaction issues? And no, our compaction, and I will present those reports to you because I just received them. Our compaction is much better than it's been in the past, this past year, much better, but our volume has increased incredibly. And I'm trying to figure out what to attribute that to. I don't know if we're doing more demolitions, demos in the city. Are people, because of the pandemic, were they consuming more trash at their homes as opposed to being out? I don't know what we're going
We
out.
haven't been able to determine if
But-
it's commercial or
But
residential.
volume, and that's what I just haven't had time to analyze that. Volume is up, compaction is good, to the good, so.
And that compaction, the guys get credit for that are the boots on the ground on the hill. The guys running that equipment, that they're doing their job, compacting that trash correctly. And we know it because we know the volume that went in, and then we shoot elevations, how much did we grow? And for a given amount of volume of trash, you grow so many inches. And if they're doing the correct compaction, that really saves us airspace. And I can't compliment those guys enough for
Yeah.
really doing
The
a
airspace
good
is the
job
life
for
of
us.
the landfill, it really is.
Because once it's lost, it's lost. You can't go back and recompact. They're doing a great job.
You're correct, it was a shorter
It was.
time period, and it was supposed to be, and so the thought was, we had that extra time with the rate increases to accumulate that carryover, so that it was an easier use of existing dollars had it been another year out.
And if we find that it's triple the commercial traffic, maybe it's time to talk about tipping fees or, you know, a way to, if we're not generating the revenue we thought we would in the same time frame, rather than hit everybody across the board with it, I'd like to try to figure out where the increase is coming from and try to capture that
Yeah.
instead of, because we're clearly behind, both coming and going on both ends of it, from revenue generation and from the length of life of the SEV itself. But yeah, I think it would, I'm curious to see what you find, because I think it's probably the place to start before we talk about, let's just get through this one and see what the rates look like for next year.
I agree. I have to, I'm optimistic though, when the auditor says that it's a possibility that we can pay cash for this next expansion. That's, for me, that's a really good thing. It means we are doing things right as far as revenue and volume and compaction and all that stuff. The next cell is supposed to be another one of those 3 to 4 years. So it's gonna, this is a constant, and at some point, in a heads up that you will see in the future, we have to look at land, possibly expansion to the west, if we want to continue to grow our landfill for another 30, 40, 50 years in the future, beyond what we've already projected. So that's something that we will be discussing in the future as well. So, any questions about the sanitation? I'll move quickly. I don't want to hold you guys all night on this, because I know Rick will talk about water and stormwater and wastewater as long as you want him to, but I'll turn it over to Rick right now for the stormwater rates.
So, as you know, we started collecting the stormwater fee last July. So basically, we're on pace to generate $1.16 million a year from that fee. And so, as you know, we moved the stormwater expenses from wastewater this year to stormwater. Basically, those expenses amount to about 90% of what we're taking in. So we are doing what we had to do, but we're not building up a bunch of money. So all we're doing is paying for what we have to pay for. So I projected out for the next 3 years, assuming 5% annual increase in expenses. We did that for all the utilities, and I built in just a 1% increase in revenue based solely on new building in the city, creating new impervious surface. So I think that's a very conservative number, but basically with those assumptions, we're gonna end up basically holding our own even over the next 3 years. The caveat is that at some point we'll identify a major stormwater project that we need to do. And when that happens, we'll have to figure out how we're going to pay for that. And hoping there's opportunities or outside funding, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Anything on stormwater you want to talk about?
I'd still like to explore the possibility of doing some credits for folks that can take advantage of changing their facility. We talked about some of the
Right,
cisterns
so
and rain gardens, things like that. So
Yeah, so whenever you want to have a community meeting to talk about that, let me know. And we'll do that.
I know that it's not gonna have much impact on the overall revenue, obviously, but I think it would be a good thing for people who feel that they, wanna try to mitigate, change their property a little bit to see it safely, so.
I agree.
Like, we'll talk about it and get time to have a meeting about it.
So, wastewater. So, obviously we're building a new plant, or we're planning on anyway, and we're about 30% into design. We've gone over every decision we made. We went back over that decision to make sure that it's the most cost-effective way to get that done. And we will keep looking for ideas to keep the price down. We're, on the other side of the coin is we're working with the EPA or with other agencies to get more funding for it, that this won't be all on the ratepayers' back. And we had a real good meeting with EPA on that last Friday. They're working on adjusting their rules in a way that will help us. So we're going to keep on that, and they, invited us to come back and talk to them in a couple of months. We're going to keep that process going. Also, this picture this is the sewer line crossing Lyle Creek at the foot of that other hill behind Peterson Place. And that line used to be completely under the creek. The creek is washed out, and the way it bends down, it's not supposed to be that way. It's on the verge of just letting go. So we have it, the fact that it's under the creek complicates how you do this. You gotta go down and back up with the sewer line. So we have an engineer helping us find the best way to fix this problem that will actually work and cost as little money as possible. Don't have any kind of cost estimate on that yet, but I'm supposed to have that report by next week. The other thing that's mentioned in here is at the airport, lots of, an incredible amount of rainwater digging into the sanitary sewer. And some of that's on us, some of that's on them. We're gonna have to have a cooperative project to address that. We have a meeting scheduled at the airport, middle of May, to try to start attacking that. So, so this spreadsheet very case, you made it into the report. And so, brutal, I guess. So, I'm sorry. So we've been playing with this and that spreadsheet from the day we, in 2020, when we came to council with the master plan to include building a new plant. So, two things. Well, obviously the cost, we're afraid the loan will be bigger than what we thought, so that's been adjusted in here. And we were presuming 1 or 2% annual increase in just regular expenses. We changed that to 5. So what happens here, right now we're sitting at about almost $7 million in the fund. Again, $3 million of it, they're about for the plant, cash towards the plant. And then we start out with loan payments here. So this ending balance is dropping a lot faster based on this than the one we did a year ago. So, we're okay through 26, we're in the positive through 28, and then we go negative. So, you know, we won't know until we have all the funding in place, we end up at no price, where we're gonna land with these loan payments. But almost certainly, well, we always, when we did the rate plan, we enacted 5 years, but it was a 14-year rate plan. We always knew that in 25 we'd have to do something else. So we might need to do it sooner than that, but right now we're okay. And I've already talked way too much. I can't help
And
myself.
you haven't even started the water yet.
Yeah, and now water, I didn't put any pictures of this one. But, again, we did the rate, plan in December, covering 3 years. And so what's different here is what you saw in December when you approved it is again a 5% annual increase in expenses as opposed to 2 or 3. And so, you know, right now we're sitting at about $3.5 million in the water fund, and we end up dropping to about 2.5 at the end of 25. 2 is like my comfort zone, so that if something major, you know, tower falls down, something insane, that we have resources to address that. The other part of the coin for the water, and you can't see this, but is the debt service ratio that we have to keep. And so this is the last 5 years of debt service ratio and the whole computation of how Mary Kay gets to that number. And you see we've been generally around 1.3, we actually at 1.1, right? Yeah, so we had a bigger number for 21, and it's 2.27. The reason we got that number is we did not have to make payments last year on the new meters. The way the contract and the whole thing worked out, we could use money that we had in escrow that we did not use on meters that covered the payments. So those payments are back. It's in the budget that we passed, and also this year the payments on the water plant project kick in full, and also the payments on the reservoir project start this year. So I think we'll be around between the 1.1 and the 1.3 this year. So it's going to be something we have to watch very closely every year, obviously. So that's just as important as the actual cash flow.
Rick, I had a question about I know we've had some discrepancy with the bills we received from OD&R in the past few years about that. Does that fall into this area as well?
Oh boy, oh boy.
Okay, I thought so.
Well, I mean, so how that pans out, well, all these numbers that I showed you, as soon as status quo.
Okay.
At some point they'll change, hopefully to the better, but we don't know. So if it goes really bad for us, then we'll have a real hard conversation.
Okay. That's kind of what I was clarifying. So.
Yeah. So, again, we're okay right now. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. We put in the budget this year, moving the raw water line out at 73 and 380. Well, that turned into a monster. Instead of the 250, that's a 24-inch line. That pipe price has gone insane. So they now say, I guess it'd be $800,000. I told them we can't afford that. We'll take our chances. ODOT, realized that actually could affect their road, so they actually went back to the drawing board. So we haven't seen what they, gonna come up with, but I'm hoping that we dodge that bullet completely. But, that's an update on that. All right, so I'll stop now because.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So we'll get all, I'm sorry. We'll get this sent out to all of you tomorrow, and we'll make hard copies available for anyone who wants to see it, the full report. And like I said before, the intent was this to have an open conversation, present it to the council, and then you all decide whether you want to take it to your committees and discuss it further once you have the information. And I appreciate that we have this set as an ordinance. I think it's, unless you go otherwise, I feel it's very beneficial to have this. Because it's one of those uncomfortable conversations anytime you're talking about rates. This happens to be a good year as far as we're not making any recommendations, but I think it's very clear that on the horizon, as we get to the end of these incremental increases, that we're going to have those courageous conversations again, especially if we're going to continue to make the improvements that are absolutely necessary for our infrastructure. Anything else, Mr. President?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. All right, moving into the council committee reports. City Revitalization Committee, Mr. McKay.
We have no official legislation tonight, Mr. President, but I did want to tell the public, Leadership Clinton will be having their graduation next Thursday, April 28th at 5:30 p.m. and it's going to be down Sugar Tree Street in the Sugar Tree Community Square. So, and the public is invited. So I just wanted to make mention of that. We have nothing tonight, Mr. President, further.
Thank you. City Services Committee, Mr. Evelyn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Quick summary of the committee meeting that we had on Tuesday night. We started out discussing the maintenance item, the $15,000 appropriation for tornado signs. Chief gave us a real good presentation on that, and one of the highlights that came out of that discussion, though, was the fact that we asked a question. Those tornado sirens were built bought well over 22 years ago, actually, when I was mayor. Do we need to think about replacing those at some point in time, or should we just continue to band-aid and put them back together? And the chief brought up the fact that it looks like in the future, tornado sirens are probably going to become obsolete because you're going to have these. And so the thought was, we go ahead and patch them together, put them back together, and do the best we can with them, and catch up with the technology as it develops. So that was interesting, and then we decided to pass it on back to Finance Committee for discussion later in the meeting. There were several questions asked about the contract engineer on street repair inspection, and Mayor got back to Jonathan the question that he had on that. Then we had a question about what is the long-range plan for capital improvements both in police and fire. The reason we asked that question was because Auditor Vance gave us a real good presentation on where we're going with the general fund over the next 5 years. And second and third year that we're doing this before we go back up to where we're generating good surplus in the general fund. Carryover balance, not surplus, but carryover balance to get it up to where we want it to be. And the thought was, we haven't bought any new fire trucks for the last 20 years. And so what happens if we need a fire truck, and we're looking at a $750,000 to $1 million cost? Trucks are expensive. Mayor pretty much gave us the indication that we're probably pretty good for right now, but if something were to happen, then is that, the question came up, is that a general fund expense that we're gonna have to absorb that could theoretically take us down even lower? Well, in discussion with Auditor Vance prior to the meeting this evening, she assures us that there are ways that can probably be handled either through, well, basically from funds other than just general fund cash. If you want further explanations on that, we can make payments on something like that out of levy funds and some of the other sources of revenue that we have. So it wouldn't be a budget buster as far as the general fund is concerned. So that gives a lot of comfort level at that point in time. And then we had a really good presentation from Jessica, our taxi department supervisor. Now, Jessica's only been on the job for about 4 months, little over that. And but she gave us a real good idea of where we stand with the taxi fund. There were several pertinent questions that people have been asking us in the community. What are we going to do? Are we going to change hours? Are we going to increase hours? Are we going to reduce hours? And that's all pretty much under discussion, but nothing has been determined. Are we going to go to a countywide service at some point in time? Because the counties mentioned that we need transportation. Maybe the city of Wilmington would be interested in something like this. The mayor pointed out that until we can really get a handle on where we are with our taxi service and get it operating the way we want it to be, we're probably not going to look at anything like that. We're going to stay with where we are and see what develops. Now, there are grants and funds available for expanding and so forth, but we don't really see that on the horizon right now. Maybe later, down the road, but as the mayor said, until we get, Mayor, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth or misquoting you, but as for right now, that's not really in the cards. There's also, about 3 years ago, three and a half years ago, they attempted the installation of a computer-aided dispatch system that just never, frankly, never worked out. It was funded by the state, but unfortunately, it never quite worked out. Jessica's looking at some changes to that will probably enhance the dispatch. However, it will be slightly different from the dispatch system that was promulgated before. Before, it was never designed as to operate with our, what we call demand system, where you pick up the phone, you call somebody, send me a cab to 853 Lincoln Street, take me to the doctor's office. It was designed more for long-term, long-range, 2 or 3 days in advance. I've got a doctor's appointment in 2 days. Can you help me there? So it just didn't, it flat didn't work out. But she's got some real good ideas. She's technically astute enough, I think, that she's going to be able to come up with a dispatch system that will work this time around. So that's on the horizon. But I think the committee and all of us were pretty much impressed with the way she's getting a handle on her job down there. She assured us that as of right now, 3 months into the year, appropriations look adequate, and so we're not going to be needing any additional funds that she can project at this point in time beyond what we've already appropriated.
So even fuel? Even fuel?
That's what she said. Now, I don't think any of us know where these gas prices are going. They've come down a little bit, but they're still high.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably, Brian might want to talk about that, but I think you see that across all the departments, really.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be a struggle to get through the year with where we are. So, but in the long range, for the rest of the year, I think we're probably going to be okay. So that was basically the sum total of our meeting. But as I said, I think we were all impressed with what Jessica had to tell us and how she presented it. The one thing she left out, though, was a piece of legislation that we want to consider this evening. And this is our standard operating grant that we get from the state of Ohio. And we're going to be asking for 3 readings this evening because it's apparently due on May the 2nd. This is the same thing we do every year. This is the thing that basically funds our operations in the taxi office from the state of Ohio. We do it every year, and so it kind of slipped up on us, but it's standard procedure. We've done it for repetitively over the years. And so this,
Mr. Evelyn, Mr. Evelyn,
sir,
and I know you intended to say this, but she is the transportation director
what did I say she
rather
was?
than taxi supervisor or something.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your title. Transportation supervisor.
Transportation director.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't get this right.
I'm glad you guys are keeping us on the ball.
Get that right, Gary.
And,
Director.
please,
Sorry.
when the administration, please apologize to Jessica for my misquoting her title. But tell her next sentence she did a good job at the committee meeting the other night. And so with that, this grant, we do need to act on this. This is, as I say, our operating grant application standard fare. So I'd ask for 3 readings on resolution 22-16 by title only, please.
Second.
A motion seconded by McKay, first reading resolution 2216. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May we have the first reading, please?
Resolution R 2216, authorizing the submittal of a proposal with the Ohio Department of Transportation for a grant through the U.S. DOT Federal Transit Administration, FTA, as authorized under federal transit law as codified 49 U.S.C. Section 5311, financial assistance for other than urbanized area, and funds available from the Ohio Public Transportation Grant Program, and executing a contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation upon project approval and declaring an emergency.
I would move that we suspend the rules and regulations and give the resolutions a second and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
Motion second for the suspension of the rules. May we have roll call, please?
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes?
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar.
Yes.
Seeing all in favor, may we have second and third reading, please?
Resolution R 2216, authorizing the submittal of a proposal with the Ohio Department of Transportation for a grant through the U.S. DOT Federal Transit Administration, FTA, as authorized under federal transit law as codified 49 U.S.C. Section 5311, financial assistance for other than urbanized areas, and funds available for the Ohio Public Transportation Grant Program, and executing a contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation upon project approval and declaring an emergency.
And I move that the resolution be passed, please.
Second.
Motion second for passage. Roll call, please.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes?
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2216 passes.
That's all, Mr. President.
Councilman, I do have a question while we're on the tornado sirens, real quick. Are those, Brian, next week's graduation at Wilmington College?
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I wanted to ask that question, I forgot to do it during the
I forgot to
presentation.
mention that. So, graduation at the college is the first Saturday of the month in May. And rather than blast the sirens during commencement, we are going to do it on the Friday at noon before graduation. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
The Friday before graduation. So we'll get a press release to the newspaper about that. But Friday, first Friday at noon this time around in May instead of Saturday. Okay?
Thank you, Brian. I didn't mean to hijack you, but I thought, while we're on the subject.
Yep, thank you.
Anybody else? Then I'm done.
Thank you, Councilman Evelyn. Finance Committee, Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 4 items this evening. Our first item is the second and third reading on ordinance 2214 supplemental appropriations that Mr. Evelyn mentioned for the term of tornado siren. We discussed the committee, we discussed it last meeting. Does anyone have any questions pertaining to this item? Excellent. Seeing none, I make a motion to suspend the rules and regulations and give the second and third reading on ordinance 2214 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Albright, second by Osborne for suspension of rules. May we have roll call, please?
Albright, Yes. Evelyn,
Yes?
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Motion carries. May we have second, third reading, please?
Ordinance O 2214, making supplemental appropriations.
I make a a motion to pass ordinance 2214 as read.
Second.
Motion and second for passage, roll call, please.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 2214 passes.
Our second item is three readings on ordinance 2218, which is establishing a fund for the Army Corps of Engineers for the wastewater treatment plant project. Just a new fund that will exist for that. It would be a reimbursable grant. So. Any questions about this item? All right, seeing none, I move to give the first reading only on ordinance 2218 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Albright, second by McKay, first reading ordinance 2218. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May we have first reading, please?
Ordinance O-2218, establishing a fund.
I move to suspend the rules and regulations, give ordinance 2218 second and third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion second for suspension of rules, roll call, please.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. May we have second, third reading, please?
Ordinance O-2218, establishing a fund.
I move to pass ordinance 2218 as read.
Second.
Motion second for passage, roll call, please.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky.
Yes.
Ordinance 2218 passes.
Our third item is three readings on ordinance 2219, which is making several supplemental appropriations. These were discussed at the committee. The first is for a $1 million from the construction fund to the project expenses fund, appropriates the funds for the new grant for the same project. Our second one is for $460.35. Not very large one there. The third one is for landfill phase 8, for some engineering there in that phase, that's $44,000, $400. And our final one is for education and training for CDL training for employees. So, any questions or comments about any of these supplemental appropriations? Still seeing none. I move to give the first reading only on ordinance 2219 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Albright, second by Snar. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May we have first reading, please?
Ordinance O-2219, making supplemental appropriations.
I move to suspend the rules and regulations and give ordinance 2219 second and third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Albright, second by Snar. Suspension of the rules. Roll call, please.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay.
Yes.
Motion carries. May we have second and third reading, please?
Ordinance O-2219, making supplemental appropriations.
I move to pass ordinance 2219 as read.
Second.
Motion second for passage, ordinance 2219. Roll call, please.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Ordinance 2219 passes.
And our final financial item of this evening is ordinance 2220, making miscellaneous transfers. There's only one miscellaneous transfer this evening. It is for project expenses, the project match, also covering the same wastewater treatment program construction project for the amount of $333,000. I misread that, $333,333.33, or $1/3 of $1 million. Are there any questions about this item from myself or Auditor Vance or anyone else? Yet again, seeing no questions, I move to give the first reading only on ordinance 2220 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Albright, second by Perky, first reading ordinance 2220. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, may we have first reading, please?
Ordinance O-2220, making miscellaneous transfers.
Move to suspend the rules and regulations, give ordinance 2220 its second and third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion second for suspension of the rules. Can we have roll call, please?
Was that Perky on the second?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
and Learman.
Yes.
Motion carries. May we have second, third reading, please?
Ordinance O-2220, making miscellaneous transfers.
Move to pass ordinance 2220 as read.
Second.
Motion second for passage. Roll call, please.
Albright,
Abstain.
Burrell,
Yeah, I'll abstain.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
and Osborne.
Yes.
Motion carries with one abstention by Albright. Ordinance 2220 passes.
And the only other item we discussed at the committee was some further development with miscellaneous transfers in the process to see if that'll be a specific fund or specific financial amounts, but there'll be more further legislation later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Albright. Judiciary Committee, Mr. Perky.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. We had a committee meeting tonight. We had several items on our agenda. The first of which was explained by Tax Commissioner Jones. Mark was here to provide an update. I don't know if everyone has a copy of this tax code in front of them, the one that's rubber banded together. Back in January of 2016, when we adopted the new tax code, we did not adopt the income tax rules and regulations. Mark had a specific question that referred to royalty payments, not royalty for the book you wrote, but for the oil that was found in your ground or used. So in clarifying that, he realized that we probably should have codified us allowing him to accept these. So we're bringing a piece of legislation forward tonight on that. If you've had a chance to look over Resolution 2217, it authorizes him to adopt those rules and regulations for us. So are there any questions there? I asked Mark during our meeting today, I thought we did this regularly, but I remember in 2016 when we adopted the new tax law. So it's like it's been a few years, but I feel like we did this, but we did not add these rules and regulations. So we'll be a little cleaner and provide the most up-to-date version of the tax law for those in the state of Ohio. So we're only asking for a first reading on this tonight because we wanted everybody to have time to look through it. It's not the most groundbreaking piece of legislation I've ever brought to City Council, but I do want everybody to have it. It is a large document. I want you to have time to read through it. So if you can't sleep, something. So any discussion or questions we'd like to have about that? Okay. If that's the case, then I'll go ahead and move for the first reading of Resolution 2217 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Perky, second by McKay. First reading, Resolution 2217. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May we have the first reading, please?
Resolution R-2217, authorizing the tax commissioner to adopt rules and regulations for income tax collection pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 718.30.
Thank you. And I'd ask for the second and third reading in our next meeting. We're not in a super big hurry, but it's also not a super controversial subject. Just wanted to make sure all council had time to read through it. So the last few things on our meeting agenda tonight, we did discuss feral cats. Again, I know it's an issue that always comes up routinely, and we found out one of our employees here at the city actually has some new ideas about that. So we're gonna, at our next meeting next month, we'll have some further discussion there, as well as some code enforcement things that came up. I did get an email this afternoon. One of the issues that we've discussed at council was council compensation. And Greg and his team at the Human Resources Department finished a pretty thorough analysis of communities around us. So I got that at about 4 o'clock today. Obviously, we're not prepared to have any sort of discussion about that tonight. I just wanted to I sent it out. I want to make sure everybody got a copy of it. So I emailed it out to, we'll bring that up at our next meeting for sure. But I appreciate Greg and his team for making that happen quickly even. So I know that it's a lot, it can be pulling teeth sometimes to get municipalities to answer questions that they don't want to answer all the time. So I appreciate you and your staff for making that happen. So
Thank Lucy. Did you do a lot of legwork on that?
It was a
team effort.
Thank you, Lucy.
She helped a lot.
It was a team effort.
Yeah.
There were a lot of factors involved.
I know how hard some of that can be to put together, so I appreciate all the thought and time you went into it. So we'll be prepared at our next meeting to have you know, a bigger discussion about it, but just wanted to kind of provide an update there. I think that's all I have. Thanks, Mr. President.
That was sent out, or? Was
Yeah,
it-
I emailed it out. I received it from Ingrid today, and I realized it wasn't sent to all of council right before this meeting. So I forwarded it off to those who weren't in the email. So if you didn't get it for some reason, let me know.
Did you say we were gonna do second and third reading on that resolution?
Yes, at our next meeting. Yep.
If you did, I just missed it. Thank you.
I did, for clarity, that would be the Cinco de Mayo meeting. May 5th.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perky. Public Works Enterprise Committee, Mr. Snar.
We've got one piece of legislation we need to wrap up, second, third reading on one we discussed 2 weeks ago with regards to water line taps and line replacement. It's ordinance 2216. Anybody want reminded or to discuss? Nick had a good question 2 weeks ago, and I think that was answered. If not, I move to suspend rules and regulations and give ordinance 2216 second, third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Snar, second by Perky. Second, third reading ordinance 2216. May we have a roll call, please?
Evelyn,
Yes.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright.
Yes.
Motion carries. May we have a second and third reading, please?
Ordinance O-2216, amending certain sections of Chapter 927 Water Rules and Regulations of the Wilmington Codified Ordinances.
I move to pass ordinance 2216.
Second.
Motion second for passage. Roll call, please.
Perky,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Snar,
Yes.
Learman,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 2216 passes.
One other thing, I just want to give a shout out to Public Works Director Rick Schaefer. Thursday before Good Friday, came to his attention that there was a grant possible grant to receive for the waterworks, and we found out also that it was due in 3 days, and so Rick didn't complain, he just got it done in 3 days. I was going to brag about you a little bit more, but you didn't give us any time.
Councilman.
That's all I have.
Councilman Star, you really zinging it there.
He said, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, under reports to council, you have the auditor treasurer's report. What is your pleasure?
Move it be accepted as presented.
Second.
Motion second to accept the auditor treasurer's report for March of 2022 as presented. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we will open the meeting to the public. Anyone that would like to address council, please come forward. Stand near the clerk's area there and state your name and address and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
I've just got a question. My name's
Sure.
Randy Gray. I live at 143 East Ruby Avenue,
Great.
Wilmington.
Glad to have you. What's your question?
The island out there in front of Dairy Queen,
Right?
how's that going to work? Killing fields or what?
Well, I don't know who wants to field that one, maybe Mr.
You want to go there?
Well, Randy, it's not something that,
I mean, I shouldn't joke about it, but it's,
No.
I got out of the car and looked to try to figure out what that's going to, how it's going to
well,
work.
it's called a refuge island. So when
Okay.
you're crossing the 5 lanes of traffic, cross the first 2 lanes, and that puts you out in the refuge area. And if you're coming from the park side, then you have to turn to the right and look at traffic. And then you have to turn again to cross the last two lanes. And just the opposite is true if you're crossing from the other direction. So as you get to the refuge island, you turn and you look at the oncoming traffic is the idea. And of course, there'll be signal lights too.
Yeah, it's not finished. There's gonna be lights and bells and whistles, and it's not finished, and all
So
signs.
there will be traffic stopped.
Correct.
When you push the button or
Yes,
whatever.
correct. And there'll be flashing lights and everything. It's not finished.
Right, just the,
It's in construction right
yeah.
now.
So did you have another question, Randy?
That was I was it. I just couldn't figure out what, you know, other than just a place to get stranded.
No.
We have a problem with kids running from the park to the.
Right, that's
Yeah,
been a problem for a
that was
long
the-
time.
In fact, we had the food places asking us about what safety improvements could we make to get kids and families safely across 5 lanes of traffic, because they were just running across anyways.
Right.
So that was what the experts came up with and told us we needed to do to make it safe for them. And it's not finished by any means. It'll be completed in the next month or two.
I think it'll make a lot more sense to you, Randy, once you see the signalization
Yeah.
that goes in.
Yeah, I just, when I stopped there and looked at it, kept looking, I thought, well, they're gonna have gates come down to sort of, like a road crossing, or, I mean, it made no sense to me, but looking right there.
Yeah, well, actually, it is not to keep our snowplow operators awake at night.
It will do that, it will do that, probably bust some teeth. All right.
Thanks for your question.
Thank you, thanks for the answer.
Sure. Anyone else wish to address council?
Mr. President, I've got 2 pieces of good news. I've received a couple messages about our camera placement, and people really like it. And they also said they can hear us better. So, great job, Andrea. That was awesome. So they're very excited about that. And also, I wanted to give a shout out to the tax department. As we know, this week was filing deadline, and I know they were super busy, and Mark was keeping up with everything. And at one point, I saw like 3 or 4 people waiting to go into pay their taxes and stuff. And I know they put in a lot of long hours this year. So Paul, they do a phenomenal job down there, and thank them for us, please. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Dickman.
Always a pleasure to be with council, and wanted to send my apologies and congratulations for Law Director Ruddick. His daughter was inducted to the National Honor Society tonight, so a very proud moment for their family. And I'm still very happy to be here though, so always good to be back.
I was going to introduce you, and it just slipped right by me. I'm sorry. But yeah, I did want to say why. It's his family. Anyone else wish to address council? If not, I'd ask for a motion.
Motion's regarded.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.